They're twisting the text. They are trying to conceal its true meaning. We've heard, but their edits are shallow. The truth will out someday.
Peace of the Lord to all of you. Welcome. So it looks like the Islamic Republic of Iran is collapsing and the king might return soon. Of course, we know that by the king returning doesn't mean that he gets in there. He says, this is my throne now, but that he would get there and help a transitional government. But in any case, how is it possible that here we are in the 21st century, the age of media, and no one is actually covering one of the most important events in our lifetimes, which is the Islamic Republic of Iran collapsing? In fact, it looks like it is only Mayar Tousi who is actually talking about this, right? So we can see here, this is his channel. I'm sure that you have already been following this event. If you have actually seen this thumbnail and clicked on the show, then you are familiar with his work. Now, notice just how many views that he's getting from covering this all-important event. But the mainstream media is actually not covering anything for some reason. So we need to actually explore that and what is going on. As we proceed, I'm going to show you a few clips from Mayar Tousi and from other people to explain what the problem is and how everything that we are saying in, well, at this point and in recent years, everything seems to be connected. How they all join together and what is the tactic behind it. The attack on October 7th and now the collapse of Iran, the immigration crisis into the West, the grooming gangs in the UK, the Boko Haram now acting up in Nigeria, all of those things are not just coincidence that they happen randomly because reasons. They are part of a bigger plan. And there is a huge game which is preventing you from seeing that all of these things are connected. So as we go through, you will see how they do have an underlying problem that we need to spot in order to be able to do something about it. But for now, during one of the sessions from Mayar Tousi on January the 10th, he gave a phenomenal speech. So actually, let's listen to him. So in this video, he went on a bit of a rant over GBNews because he was there. They asked him for information so that he could explain what was going on in the Islamic Republic. And then immediately after, they got someone who was basically an extremist. They didn't challenge them. And now on this video, he's hitting the roof. So let's listen to what he's got to say.
Saying, as an Iranian, I say to GBNews, by amplifying false voices, you are spreading misinformation and standing on the wrong side of history. Thing is, if you want to platform, you could platform whoever you want. You need to be honest about it, tell people who they are, and challenge them. That is your job as journalists, not to be their parrots for their propaganda. There is a difference between doing journalism and asking the right questions and describing to people who are watching your channel who this person is and hold them to account. And obviously, the other way is to just let them talk, nod, and say, of course, this is a person representing the Iranian people.
By the way, this is something that we are going to discuss as we go through as well. This happens a lot when a presenter would actually get someone who is just spouting propaganda, but it is very comforting lie, and they are just unchallenged. It's almost like, well, their opinion matters. It's like, no, you should actually know if what they are saying is the truth or not. This happens a lot. We're going to see that later.
They are traitors who are being infiltrated by the deep state. All of these guys are being infiltrated by the deep state, trying to prevent this revolution. Their foreign office in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, the Republic of France, the US Democrats, and the corporate Western mainstream media do not want this revolution to happen. They were the ones behind it in the first place. It is very embarrassing for the people I mentioned, these globalists, to admit that the Crown Prince is being called upon by the Iranian people. It is
Now, we're also going to see how, when he's saying about the mainstream media not covering this, they have a very clear bias. We are going to show that. So you're going to see like, oh, wow, why they do this. So once you start putting the pieces together, everything is not just clear, but you realize that the people who are making the decisions, which is the government and the mainstream media, the ones spouting now all of the propaganda, they're the ones who want to control you. They want to change the narrative. And hopefully today, during this show, you're going to expand a little bit your mind to become a bit more resilient to the lies that are being actually thrown there. And you're going to understand why they're throwing those lies, why they are actually on the side of very bad guys. Anyway, let's actually continue with his bit of a rant.
It's very embarrassing for these people to admit that they were behind the 1979 paramilitary coup. The globalists are now extremely cornered. Hold the line, keep exposing them, keep fighting. Do not fall for the trap. Do not get tricked by these people just because you like them. There is a problem right now across the world. They have betrayed your countries. Every single one of you watching from Sweden, Germany, France, Canada, Australia. Your liberal leaders have done this to yourself. They didn't just ruin Iran. They didn't just ruin the Middle East. They ruined their countries as well. They brought in, they imported jihadis into your countries, and they told you to shut up about it. If you complain, you are the problem. You are far right. They are ruining you. People keep falling for this. Time to stand up, everybody around the world. If you believe in sovereignty of your country, if you believe in self-determination, your democracies, reject this globalist poison. Now we have the first.
Well, you see, I don't think I could have ever done a greater job at explaining things incredibly well. This is exactly what is happening, and this is what you are experiencing. But let's actually see what is behind all of that, because you know that things are going to escalate. If you are in the West, things are going to escalate. So what do you need to do? Do you need to actually go on the streets, start protesting? Do you need to send an email to your mayor or something like that? Well, there are many things that you can actually do. And one of the problems is, well, you're going to see, is ignorance. They're throwing so many things at you that you don't know what is the truth and what is a lie. A good rule of thumb is, if you see something in the mainstream media, the opposite is true. Another one is, if you hear things from Islamists, and the polar opposite is true. Actually, we're going to see a lot of example about that. So this is what is happening. You are the greatest problem-solving machine this world has ever seen. Your IQ is greater than all of your ancestors. You have been educated more than any one of them. You certainly can read and write. Most of them, they couldn't. You have been bombarded with different musics, different stories in movies, TV series, and books, and so on. All of those things, and technology. You are actually able to use computers and things like that, which your ancestors did not have access to. That has actually made you able to think critically, and you have retained a level of creativity. Creativity is lost as we get older, but you are still more creative than your ancestors. So this is where we are at. Because you can solve any problem that is put in front of you, what the game is being played in front of your eyes is they are trying to cloud the problems. That's why there is so much propaganda, so much misinformation. They have to keep you just going around. You cannot see what the problem is. Because the moment that you see what a problem is, you're going to find a solution. In fact, since you were a baby, you were programmed to think without realizing that every problem has at least one solution. Very often it has many solutions. Therefore, solutions outnumber problems by a long margin. So this is what we are going to do today. We're trying to remove this fog, this cloud that has been put over a particular problem. Okay, let's listen to a few more words from Tousi from earlier on that same live stream.
The media in the West continues to be at best ignorant, at worst evil. So the Western media, the global legacy media, have not been reporting the truth. They took them over 2 weeks to actually start reporting. Now, when they are reporting, they've been reporting from the Islamic Republic perspective.
Yeah, that's actually what is happening. Now, think about this for a moment. This is the same mainstream media who is completely ignoring what is happening in Nigeria. Okay, it's the same mainstream media that has tried to cover up the grooming gangs in the United Kingdom. These are the people who are trying to tell you a narrative that is different to what is going on. So you need to start thinking about how is it possible that Islam is at the center of a lot of these big problems, either through money, influence, or propaganda. So the mainstream media, they are really trying very hard to not let you see what is going on. Like he said, this revolution in Iran should have been reported from day one, but it hasn't happened, right? For this reason. If you go to the BBC, which is the national broadcast organization in the United Kingdom, they are not reporting any of this. So you have to go onto their website and then go click in order to get to the relevant section. And then you are shown some BS like this one. Look at this. Trump warning over Iran protests, reckless, says foreign minister. It's like, oh, you are not being biased. Why are you not reporting what is happening on the ground? Which is people are fed up of the mullahs. They want separation of church and state. They are fed up of seeing people hanging from cranes. They are fed up of Islam. The majority of the people in the Islamic Republic, they are not Muslims anymore. Why are they not reporting that, which is important, and that they are calling for the king to return to basically just try to establish some order? These people have taken a side, and it is the side of the bad guys, and that's the information they are just pushing on you. You may be aware that the BBC has now been exposed by being incredibly biased during the whole Israel and Hamas war and other things. And now we can see why. Now, if you don't know what I'm going to show you next, it will surprise you. Why are these people not reporting? Is it because it's not newsworthy? They don't care about Iran, even though everyone is talking about sleeper cells all over the West? Well, not quite. Here you have the BBC in October 2024. They broadcasted a 40-minute speech from Khamenei. Just think about the sheer insanity of this. This is one of the most extremist guys in the world. And they broadcasted a 40-minute speech. They put it all like, oh, well, it's a rare speech, so we have to do it. No, this guy is extremist on a whole different level. They actually gave him that platform. But now, when the regime is collapsing, they're keeping their mouth shut. No one is talking about it. You need to decide if these people are doing so because they're being paid, probably with oil money, or if these people are just so incredibly stupid that they think they're on the right side of history. You cannot do what these guys have been doing, pretending that nothing is happening when it collapses, but this is what they said. And it gets worse because this is for the United Kingdom. Look at this. Okay, you can find this video there from recent, or you can actually find the full interview just based on the information in here. But let's listen to the first words that Amjad Taha actually says to the interviewer and how she responds to it.
Has Islamist extremism in the UK become even worse than it is in the Middle East at the moment? This video is going to shock you.
I think you have more extremists in UK than you have in the Middle East.
Really?
At this stage, absolutely. The things that some of the Islamists say in various mosques, and we have been seeing that online, the terminology they use, the analysis they make, the statements they actually make, they would not be able to say it all the way in Afghanistan, for example, or in Iraq.
So how has this been allowed to flourish in the UK? What's your analysis of that?
Okay, well, you see, and then he will go with the political reasons. But did you see how she has just reacted? Lady, this guy has just told you that you have more extremists in the United Kingdom than there are in the Middle East. Push that panic button already. Do you see? This is part of the whole ignorance. It's like they're telling you that these incredibly dangerous people can be handled in the Middle East. They know how to handle them. They understand Islam very well. And they are not having these problems. The actual big problems in the Islamic lands, they're coming to the West. And he's telling you, lots of them, they're in the United Kingdom. And she's like, oh, how did this happen? Ain't this curious? Lady, did you not realize that he just told you a lot of people are going to get hurt in your country? These people are not going to be there and just having their 9-to-5 jobs. He's already described them. And he's told you there is a problem at the mosques, the things that they are saying. Now, all of this fits into what we are discussing today. The problem is not simply that you listen to these things and then, okay, so there is a problem. What do we do? The problem is actually deeper. This is actually what we do on the channel, and we will show you a lot of examples in a bit. Now, the United Kingdom and the West, they are still accepting the Muslim Brotherhood. In the Middle East, they are banned. They cannot actually operate at all. Like, why are you doing that? Is it the Muslim Brotherhood paying a lot of people off in the West? Because this is not normal. But also, part of the whole confusion is, hang on a minute, if those people, these extremists, they are not allowed to operate in the Middle East, that means that they are not real Muslims, right? This is what people will conclude from listening to this information. If they were real Muslims, they would be there in Saudi Arabia and in Iraq and in all of these other places, and they would be welcome. They would be part of the family, you know, of the tribe. But instead of that, those people are being kicked out. Therefore, the problem is the Islamists. It's not Islam, it's the Islamist, which is the new buzzword, right? All of this is part of the deception. And in order to understand that, you will need to spend a really long time studying all of this. Let me give you another example. Or rather, before the example. Now, think about this for a moment. That guy, Amjad Taha, said you have more extremists in the United Kingdom than there are in the Middle East. He's telling you there is a problem. Everybody knows there is this problem. There are more people in the watch list in the United Kingdom for with relations to Islam than people they have in their army. Things absolutely insane. They cannot cope with the amount of work because they open the floodgates, they let everybody in, they didn't vet anyone, and all of those things. But do you think it makes sense that their main broadcast organization in a country that they have a problem with Islamists, they are up to their eyeballs in this problem, that they would broadcast a 40-minute speech from one of the most radical people on planet Earth? Do you think that will end well? Do you see the problem? These people are broadcasting things that are going to get a lot of people hurt. They already have a problem. What they are signaling the population is that the government and the media, because now they're the one and the same, they are on the side of these bad guys. Now, a little while ago, let me see actually if I can find a picture for you. Okay, so this guy here on the Winston Marshall show, this is something that if you haven't watched from Rajamia, is really worth doing. This guy has exposed a lot of stuff and he got into a lot of trouble for it, as you would expect. That, in short, is huge cover up. A lot of very bad people doing very bad things, and the government over there selling their people for a handful of votes. Okay? So the problem with the mainstream media, they are really trying to cover up everything. The politicians are on the side of really bad people, as we have actually seen, and all of the people they're trying to expose those things, they're normally getting in trouble. So remember, we have seen that in the United Kingdom, the BBC, they would broadcast these extremists like full speech, full sermon, and then they don't cover when the Islamic Republic is collapsing. I wonder whose side those people are on. Now, if you're listening from the United Kingdom, are you very comfortable that your political class and your mainstream media, they are on the side of the Ayatollahs? Are you happy with that? Hmm? Things are going to end very bad, isn't it? Remember as well what we have just seen from Amjad Taha. You are in trouble. But that is not the end of the problem. That's actually only the beginning. Let's show you how people are trying to confuse you as to what the heck is going on. So, do you know this guy? I bet you do. This is part of the problem. There is a huge problem that is going on with the media, and now we have been told there are the mainstream media like the BBC and so on, they are the problem. And then people like this, we just think, oh no, they are independent, they're just truth seekers. It's like, absolutely not. He's a propagandist. And I think in his case, it's not because he gets paid for, from the wrong people, but rather because of his complete and utter ignorance on the subject. And we're going to talk about him in a little while in more detail. But what you get from someone like him is, on the one hand, last year I was watching one of his shows and something bad had happened from, once again, Islamists. And then he puts this somber look on his face and says, I think we need to talk about Islam. I mean, the conversation about Islam needs to be had. Okay. The very next week, someone says how horrible it is, the teachings of Islam and how Muslims act in that manner. And he jumps in saying that it is Islamophobic. Are you seeing the problem? On the one hand, everybody knows a conversation needs to be had about Islam. In fact, in one of the last, perhaps the last interview that Piers Morgan had with Jordan Peterson said as much. It's like most of the Islamic countries are very different to the West. I think we need to talk about this. So people will acknowledge this. And then he goes, oh, Islamophobic. What is Islamophobic? Is it Muslimophobic? Is it hating Muslims? Or is perhaps the problem that is included in the word? The conversation needs to be had. For example, Muslims worship Muhammad, period. Now, if you speak with any Muslim, they will tell you that is not true. They worship Allah and Allah is the one true God and so on. It's like it is not true. When you dig into what happens in the religion, you will realize that they actually worship Muhammad. They send prayers to Muhammad on a daily basis. It's like, if that's not worshiping Muhammad, I don't know what is. You are literally sending him prayers, right? So this is a conversation that needs to be had. If you criticize Muhammad, then you have to be analyzed. You get fatwas on your head. It's all over Sharia. So we know there is a problem. But now people like Piers Morgan, as we're going to see, from a position of complete and utter ignorance, will say, there is a problem, we need to talk about Islam. When you say something that is not nice about Islam, suddenly that conversation is Islamophobic. Stop using that word, dude. It was introduced by the Muslim Brotherhood. Why are you using a word that was designed to shut down debate about what? About Christianity? About Judaism? About Marxism? No, about Islam. Okay? So this is the problem. And now they are introducing a new word, and that is Islamists. Now you hear this word all the time. The problem is not with Islam, is with Islamists. Have you heard that one? I bet you have. Let's do a one slide quiz. Let's see how well you do. So, what is the source of the Islamist problem? Let's see. Is it A, the Jews? Is it B, Christianity? Is it C, the globalists? Or is it D, Islam? What is the source of the Islamist problem? Cast your votes, and it will be revealed in 3, 2, 1. You were right. It's the Jews, because everything is the Jews, isn't it? How many times have you seen people out there just trying to pin everything is always the Jews? All of that is deflection, is so that you don't see what the problem is. You cannot delve into the problem. Do you remember when you had in Pakistan, right in the border with India, they have this group of incredible extremists who the army in Pakistan absolutely adore, and they have pictures with them and they see them as heroes. And then this group went into India. They started unaliving people in Kashmir. And the Indian government responded by bombing the headquarters of those people in Pakistan. What did we get? What was the message from Pakistan? Oh, those people have no affiliation with us. We don't know them. We've never heard of them. We don't know who they are. But India has now attacked a sovereign country, which is uncool. And by the way, India were bombing, women and children. Did you see the problem? It is always the same thing. It is all about deflection. Don't look at the problem. Just pin it on the Jews. That's rule number one. Pin it on the Jews. Why do we have all of these people coming now to the West and causing trouble? Because of the Jews. How many times have you actually heard that? It's like, but you are actually allowing the Islamic Republic and the Muslim Brotherhood and everybody else to exploit your very good intentions of leaving everything open for anyone. But instead of helping the Nigerians, the Nigerian Christians, they are actually getting people who want to destroy the West, and they're very, very vocal about it. Are you seeing the problem? Think about it. These people who are telling you, we need to actually help people from war zones and things like that. It's like, why are you not helping the Nigerian Christians? Look, first of all, they are Christians. They follow the 10 Commandments. If you get them into a place like the United Kingdom, they are going to integrate in 5 minutes. They already have shared values. That's number one. Number two, they already speak English. The Nigerians, they speak English. Get them into the United Kingdom. And number three, if you didn't know this, you will enjoy it. Nigeria is the country that drinks more Guinness in the world, even more than the Irish, although the Irish will never accept that. You want to help someone, help the Nigerian Christians. Instead of that, what do we get from the media? Everything is okay in Nigeria. It's global warming. So when we have Boko Haram unaliving people in great numbers, it's because of what? Global warming. It's all like this. Let me show you one clip that is going to show you very clearly, I hope, very clearly what the whole problem with when Islam is involved in something, all that you are getting is a lie. The opposite is true. Okay, so this, what we're going to show now, is the moment that changed everything. If I mentioned before, they're trying to prevent you from seeing like what is going on. This moment is at the center of it. Let's give a bit of background. We're going to see, let's actually go through the video and then I will stop it and tell you like what is going on. If you haven't heard of Hatun, Tash and Jay Smith and the Speaker's Corner, then you are in for a surprise. What we're going to see is the moment that should have ended Islam completely. This moment should have been picked up by the mainstream media, by every investigative journalist around the world. Everyone should have seen what you are going to see now, and Islam would have collapsed at that precise time. This is from 2016. So October 7th would not have happened. All of the things happening now in the Islamic Republic of Iran should not have happened. All of the pushing people into Europe, and now everyone is in trouble, should not have happened. Bondi Beach should not have happened. Boko Haram should not have happened. All of that should have been stopped at this specific moment in time. Let's watch it.
Muslims, you all believe that this is your book. Exactly. That this is your Quran, and it is your Quran. This is the Quran written by Al-Hilali and Al-Khan. This is the translation of Al-Hilali and Muslim Khan. Now, you have all been told that this book is eternal, have you not?
Now, very important. I assume that most people watching, they are already familiar with the claims from Islam about the Quran, which is namely that there is one Quran, it is perfectly preserved, and so on. Okay, we're going to see that that's not only not the case, it could not be any farther from the truth. Now, if you are an atheist, think about this. If you are an atheist and somebody tells you, we have this book that has been the same for 1400 years, there hasn't been any problem with it, scribal errors, any changes, you would already know immediately that that's not true, because it's impossible. No one would claim that. The Christians don't claim that about the Bible. Nobody claims that about, you know, the works of Homer. We don't have anything from 1400 years ago that was copied again and again and then is without errors. So the moment that they would say that it is perfect, you would know that is impossible. Absolutely impossible. Of course, that then shows to Muslims that, yes, they have a revelation from God because it hasn't changed. But we're going to see that that's actually not what happened at all. Like, the book has changed. It has changed a lot. And the Islamic scholars and the people in power and so on, they know. So we have now this division between the guys in the know and the guys in the not know. And that is what happens with Islam. It's an all-encompassing system. The religion is a small portion of it. It is about law. It is about the political movement. Is the whole thing all into one. And you have the guys at the top knowing full well that they are deceiving everybody at the bottom. By the way, the ones that go out with a bang, they are the ones at the bottom. That's why they needed to know about these things. Let's carry on and see what here you have Dr. J. Smith, and here on the left, Hatun Tash. And I'll tell you the story about what happened maybe a little bit later.
You have all been told that this book, the Quran, was sent down to a man named Muhammad in 22 years, from 610 to 632, and that it was compiled completely in 652 by Uthman, the third caliph. Yes, am I correct on that?
Well, yes, he's correct on that, but there is always a lot more problem when it comes to the Quran. First, when he's saying that every Muslim right there, they believe that there is only one, that's actually because the Quran makes that claim. So they are forced to say it. There is no way around it. The Quran says Allah protects his word, and Muslim says the word is the Quran, therefore it has to be perfect. You cannot actually have any variance between those manuscripts, which, once again, if you are an atheist, you would know that it's impossible. If you are not an atheist, the same. You know it's not possible. So that claim is absolutely worthless. In fact, you know it's a lie. But it's one they have to tell because the Quran itself makes that claim. So they have to try and defend it, which is just absolutely not true. Also, when he says that the Quran was revealed in 23 years, yes, that is the accepted narrative. But I don't want to be too I don't want to nitpick, but I will a little bit. When you go to the sources, to the Islamic sources, you will have every single story and its opposite. You will have many different interpretations of absolutely everything. In fact, the shows that we are now having normal videos in every Thursday is showing how a single verse that it exposes Islam because it tells you where the book came from, that when you go to their sources, they will try to explain it away in countless different ways. And then Muslims will have to pick one and say, that's the truth, that's the truth. But when you look at all of the sources with an open mind, you realize that they had no idea. They were making up excuses to make their book into divine, and then they are pushing that into the minds of Muslims, which should be against, it should be a human right violation right there. But anyway, let's continue and see what he says. Oh, and when he says there is only one, according to the sources, you can see from other sources also the story that the book was given to Muhammad into his soul all in one go, and then it was released from his memory, one verse at a time. So you can find different versions of what happened, which doesn't matter because it didn't happen. But the point is, the accepted view of most Muslims is he received the revelations over a 23-year period. However, do not ask Muslims how did that happen. Do not ask them about the Hiyya al-Kaldi. Do not ask them about Waraka. Do not ask them about Jibril in the cave. They will not know. In fact, I'm going to do a show probably this week, if not next week, having a quiz about what their sources say. So make sure that you actually tune in for that one and you play along with us as we're going through answers and let's see how much you actually know about Islam. Anyway, let's continue with Jay Smith and debunking this myth of Islam and proving that Islam is all a fabrication.
And every one of you Muslims would say yes to that. Or you say no. What have you been told? You don't know. You don't know what you've been told. Okay, here's a Muslim that's a little confused. But that's the classical account. So I'm just repeating what you've told us over the years. And also you have been told that this Quran has never been changed. That the Quran we have in our hand today is the same Quran that has always existed from the eternal tablets that are in heaven, from the time of Muhammad on earth in the 7th century, from the time of Uthman in 652 until today. So that the Arabic that we read here is exactly the same. Have you been told that?
So this is what Muslims had been told, that every time they recite the Quran, first, that there is only one Quran, that's the one they have, each of them. And that the Arabic in that Quran is the same Arabic, that basically the same words that were given to Muhammad by God himself. So imagine the power of that. You need to memorize the Quran in Arabic because you are reciting the words from the eternal tablets in heaven, not change. Now, in here we have discussed things like the Qira'at, and we will explore a lot more. Like, that's not the case. In fact, we can see from some of the readings, which they're going to display now in a minute, that they didn't even know if some of these verses were meant to be about one guy telling a group of people, or if it was telling a story in the past tense. The whole thing is a mess, a complete mess. Okay, let's carry on.
Yes, you have. And that there is only one Quran, right? And that every Quran in the world is the same. That's what you've been told. You have been told a lie. But see, how many of you have ever investigated your Quran? How many of you have ever gone to the Arabic Quran?
Okay, this is, again, something that we see even with this whole topic that we are discussing today. In Islam, you are going to get claims. Those claims are false, but because you are operating with Christian values, you assume that people are speaking to you in good faith. And when you see particularly a Muslim who's been lied to his whole life, if you ask him questions, he's going to tell you those lies, and he's going to be perfectly truthful because that's what he's been told. Now, you don't know that that is a lie. The whole Islam is about do not investigate anything, do not ask any questions, and blame the Jews. This is Islam in a nutshell. Okay, so now pay close attention to what is about to happen. So now Jay Smith is going to say a few words about this book, and you're going to see how there is a Muslim there at the front who is going to try and change the topic. He's going to actually say, but what about the Bible? This thing happens again and again as they are there trying to explain this. But Jay Smith, he has this superhuman voice, that superhuman lung capacity, so it actually carries. But you will have people doing that. This is what Islam is, people, is change the topic. Even I get on this channel, as we are researching all of these things, I'm getting more and more trolls like coming in trying to change the topic. They will just go, oh, you are speaking about the Quran, but what about the Talmud? Or how about in the Bible when it says, whatever, Jesus saying, "Oh Lord, why have you forsaken me?" They try to change the topic. They cannot accept that you discuss Islam. And it's not because it's upsetting for them, it's because it is part of the programming. And we're going to see that in a minute as to how that actually works. They have to change the topic. So pay close attention as J. Smith talks and listen to what the Muslim says.
This is the Quran that was completed, put together in 1924 at Al-Azhar University.
Why don't you talk about your Bible?
Yeah, you see? Why don't you talk about your Bible? Imagine this that we are seeing now is a Speaker's Corner in London, and you have Hatun, Tash, and J. Smith showing Muslims they have been lied to. J. Smith have just said it a moment ago, you have been lied to. You have been told a lie, right? That is what he's exposing. Now, the guy that is working there says, what about your Bible? My man, go to Speaker's Corner, get all of the Bibles in the world, get all of the Bibles in any language that you want, show any differences that you want, show manuscripts, do it. No one is stopping you. Criticize anything that you want. But when those guys are there, they are telling you one very clear thing, which is your Quran has changed. Imagine this. A Muslim, if they hear that, they should think immediately, hang on a minute, there is a problem here. I've been told there is only one Quran, it's perfectly preserved, and now these people are telling me something else, and they have evidence. Am I on the side of the liars? Do I need to investigate this? Is this not the way to heaven or whatever? They should investigate that. But the moment the conversation is about Islam, in this case, the Quran, let's try to change the topic. What about the Bible? Why is that guy saying, what about the Bible? It's like, dude, do the work yourself. These people are there talking about the Quran. Do you really think they're going to drop everything and start telling you about the Bible? Go and speak with Wesley Huff if you have questions about it. Let's see what happens next.
University, the scholars there at Al-Azhar wrote this book, created this Quran in 1924. Now, Hatun, what does that say? 1924. What does that say? Don't put them up yet. What does that say about the Quran? It's a very new Quran, isn't it?
Why are you scared to talk about your book?
Again, you see this? Again, let's talk about your book. It's like, no, my man, we're going to sit here and talk about the Quran until the cows come home. It's all about deflection. And you will see this as we continue through this conversation. They are going to try to change the topic. This is the whole, do you remember what I've shown you about the problem and then the solution? They're trying to cloud the problem. And the way that they do that, they have the whole media is trying to do that. They will say, oh, but the Jews this, oh, but the CIA created ISIS. Oh, but look, they just want you to keep walking around so that you don't look at the problem. Now, as you can see from these people, a main problem with the whole ideology of Islam, the whole political law and religious system, the weakness is the religion. And the weakness within the weakness is the Quran. And we're going to see some of these examples of how the world is reacting after this thing that happened. But notice the guy is still, what about your book? What about your book? It's like, my man, we're talking about your book, and we're going to do so until the cows come home. Let's carry on.
Less than 100 years ago, 1924, folks, this book is only 120.
You are not a Muslim. Why you talk about the Quran?
87 years, less than 90 years ago.
The Bible.
And they continue. You see, why do you talk about the Quran? What about the Bible? My man, these guys are telling you that your book was completed in 1924. He's telling you, you are on the side of liars. You should probably listen, because there ain't 72 virgins waiting for you. Oh, by the way, we need to actually talk about the Houris at one point. That word didn't exist until the Quran. So there is no such thing as Houris. So, but that's a different topic that we will cover when we are talking verses.
We're going to talk about the Bible, but the Muslims are going to be scared about what we're talking about next. And the reason why is because we have always assumed you are correct. We have always assumed that every Quran in the world, every Arabic Quran is exactly the same. saying.
Talk about the Bible.
We know that the translations are different.
And they continue. You see, isn't this the same that you are seeing now with the media? Is we're having a problem with Islamists. Okay, so we need to talk about Islam. No, you cannot talk about Islam because you are an Islamophobe. It's like, look, the elephant in the room is clear. There are some people like Boko Haram, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, the Islamic Republic, the Houthis, the all of the other groups. They are problematic and they are in big numbers. The Muslim Brotherhood, you know. And if you are thinking, oh no, but there are Sunnis and Shias, you are mixing the two. No, they are the same. Okay, they are the same. This is part of the distraction. The Sunnis believe that they need to trigger the end of times by unaliving all of the Jews. And the Shias believe something very different. They believe that they need to unalive all of the Jews. Like this, the Mahdi returns, and then it's the end of times. It's the same. Okay, it is the same ideology. It all goes back to the weakest the weakest link, which is the Quran. Okay, so don't get distracted by that. If you speak with a friend, he's probably a Muslim friend, he's probably going to be a Sunni, and if you ask him about the Islamic Republic, he's going to tell you, well, they are the Shias, and that's what they are. They're just a cult, so you shouldn't pay attention. The real religion is Sunni. It's all about the distraction. Don't get distracted. See about these people. When they are presented with the truth that can solve the problem, they are trying to change the topic. So if we have all of these groups that now the new buzzword applied to them is Islamist, okay, great. Address the elephant in the room. What is it that those people are taught that is not the teachings of Islam? Think about it. Shouldn't that be the actual thing to address? If they are saying Islam is the religion of peace, but then you have these hundreds of millions of people that they don't act in that manner, it should be very easy to find out the teachings that are fabricated, that are being used to get people to be violent. But nobody addresses that. They say, we need to talk about Islam, but the problem is not in Islam because someone told me that it's the religion of peace. And then we have hundreds of millions of people who are the worst human beings this world has ever seen. And, you know, nobody knows the gap between the two. Absolute ignorance. Anyway, we will actually cover that more in a little while. Let's actually continue and see what happens during this event.
But today we're not talking about the translation. We're talking about the Arabic Quran. And already the Muslim is upset.
You are a shaitan.
He does not want me to talk about the Quran. He does not want me to bring the Quran to speak the story.
Can I debate with you? Talk about the
And this is the only place we can ask
Be a man. Can I debate with you?
Can you see? He doesn't want to talk about it. He wants to talk about the Bible.
Can I debate
We're going to get to the Bible. Now, Hatun, tell me
Debate with me on the ladder.
Is this the only Quran that exists today in Arabic?
Why don't you debate with me on the ladder?
This is something as well that we see a lot. And if you follow Christian apologists and people who actually talk about the Islamic, the Quran and their traditions, you will see how they will try to change the topic. All of the time, they don't allow you to speak about it. And the reason is they have been told that that's what they have to do. And the reason is it cannot be defended. Okay, it cannot be defended. Yes, like I said, anyone watching this, you would know that the moment that someone said, oh, you believe that your book, that you have to do these things, including going out with a bang, because your book comes from the heavens, and one of your proofs is that the book hasn't changed in 1400 years. No, my man, your book has actually changed, and quite a bit, okay? Because that's how it is. And now we're going to the big reveal.
Yes. Why are you scared?
According to tradition,
Why you talk about Christianity?
and according to history, answer is no. That's not only the Quran. There are approximately.
What do you know about the Quran? You are an Armenian.
Wait, did you say, hold on a minute. You're saying there's more than one Quran today.
You run away from truth.
Okay, so there are two Qurans today, right? Two.
More than two Qurans.
More than two? 3 Qurans?
More than three Qurans.
More than 3? 4 Qurans?
There are approximately 26 of the Quran.
26 different Qurans.
More than that, we have
26 Qurans that are different. They are not the
We
same,
have
is what you're saying.
1,000.
Look at this. This was 2016. Hatun Tash has now got a lot more than that. She's actually got more copies. And you can see they didn't print this out in a bedroom, okay? These things are from Islamic sources. You see them?
So what? What business of yours?
And they are different from one another.
Can you show me some of those 26 Qurans?
Can you show
I want you to hold up these Qurans.
the original Bible?
There you go. The guy, do you hear the guy? Can you show us the original Bible? He's like, my man, look, listen, okay? We need to talk. You have been told there is only one Quran and that you have to obey the messenger and the book and Allah protects his word and so on. And you are presented for the first time in your life 26 Qurans. They are showing you that you are on the side of liars and that you need to do investigation. And he's still there in the presence of 26 different Arabic Qurans. And what does he say? Can you show us the original Bible? It's about changing the topics. See? Isn't this wonderful?
Oh, have a look, brothers.
Very good.
Have a look, brothers, sisters. Did you read them? Did you read them?
Well, you show the difference. Don't you say?
Right. And then, oh, but show us the differences. It's like, yes, show my man. I mean, you have 26 different Qurans, and I'm sure that they are all identical because that's how the world works. And this is a website for anyone who is actually doing research into what happened with the Quran and so on. This is one of the best sources available. I have spoken about this with quite a few people, and lots of people still don't know. So that's why I try to give it as much screen time as possible. So this is a website from a scholar by the name of Shadi Nasser, who puts together all of the different qira'at, all of the different readings of the Quran. So for any Muslim that would say, oh, no, it's perfectly preserved. They are just something called ahrufs. All of that is nonsense. We will talk in other shows. Even their own scholars don't agree what ahrufs actually are and things like that. But this is a very, very good website because he's putting everything together. You can click on things and see the different readings, whether it is from external sources like Shia readings and things like that, or from the 7 readings. And when you just click in here, you can see absolutely everything that he's got. So what is it? 1,500 pages with different changes, different readings. And it has the option here to check by type of variant, by reading, 7 readings and stuff. It's wonderful. It's a great tool. The book was never preserved. So why is it that what I said before from that event at the Speaker's Corner, it should have ended Islam? Every single newspaper and news channel and investigative journalist, they should have taken that moment and put it everywhere. Latest news, all Muslims around the world have been lied to about their book. Imagine that something as damaging as that would have happened to anything to do with Christianity or with Judaism. Imagine that. Every single channel would have it. When it came to Islam, nobody would touch it. They pretended that that did not happen. This was 2016. If the mainstream media had done their job, they would have sent that everywhere. And Islam would have ended. At this point, there would not be any Muslims in the world. There would not be Boko Haram, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, the Taliban. Those things would not exist. Those people, the way that they act is because they think their Quran says so, which it doesn't. This is actually the main area that we explore here on this channel. The book had a very different origins. Very, very different. And after seeing 26 different books there from Hatun, Tash, and J. Smith, how would that surprise you? So this, I believe, is the moment that changed history. Because the moment that that happened, well, Israel got attacked 2 years later after COVID. The attack, by the way, on October 7th, was meant to happen earlier, and Hamas had made it clear that it was going to happen earlier. But then COVID happened, everything shut down, so they had to delay October 7th. So why did it happen at that specific time? The reason is quite simple. The religion can no longer be defended. It simply can't, okay? For that reason, they have to move up to, plan B. And there is only one thing that they could do, that is destroy Israel, because both Sunni and Shia, they believe that they have to trigger the end of times. And the end of times only comes when they unalive all of the Jews. Therefore, they had to destroy Israel. It didn't go according to plan. It has gone horribly wrong. Hence why the Sunnis didn't really get involved in that fight. But that was the last card. The only thing that they could do was to wage war against Israel, to win, and then to be able to tell every Muslim around the world, you see, now is the end of times. Now is when we win. Now it didn't go according to plan. They attacked Israel, and it has gone horribly wrong, so horribly wrong that the Islamic Republic of Iran is now collapsing. Yeah, all of those things could have been avoided. In fact, they should have been avoided. But the same mainstream media who is now not telling you what is happening in Iran, the same mainstream media that broadcasted a speech, a full sermon from Khamenei, is the same mainstream media that will not touch these topics. You see? And there is more. So let me show you something else. So this is Robert Spencer, a fan favorite. And if you don't know his work, then you have some catching up to do. He has written, I think it's about 30 books now on Islam traditions, and a new book of his is coming out soon. I think soon, actually, so it should be quite good. So he has this site and YouTube channel as well, Jihad Watch. So in 2024, end of 2024, he posted this article. The Taliban prohibits Islamic scholars from engaging in public debates. Now, think about this. It's supposed to be, according to Muslims, Islam is the last and final religion. They have everything. They have the book, perfectly preserved. Now we've seen that's not the case. They have the hadith, they have the traditions, they have the last prophet. Basically, they have everything. It is the most obvious final Abrahamic faith ever. Why would the Taliban not allow their scholars to engage in debates? The reason is quite simple. Every time they engage in debates, the levels of apostasy grow. It's just as simple as that. It can no longer be defended. We have here on our outro, let me actually play a little bit of our outro so that you see what happens at the very start, which is first what we have just seen from Jay Smith and Hatun Tash, and the very next section on our outro is of David Wood. So listen to what he has to say about it. Let me just click on the right thing. Here we go, I think. Sorry, just trying to find it. Is it this one? I think it's this one.
There is only one Quran, right? Every Quran in the world is the same. That's what you've been told. You have been told a lie!
Approximately 26 of the Quran.
26 different Qurans!
There are 0 Dawa guys apparently left on the planet who are willing to defend Muhammad in a debate.
Okay, so we can actually just talk about that. As you can see from David Wood, he had this debate where there were basically no takers. In the past, Muslim apologists, we call them Dawagandists, they would engage with Christian apologists all the time. But the Christian apologists, they are now more educated. Basically, what happened is the Dawagandists would throw claims which are absolutely false. But the Christian apologists, they basically didn't get there. They would have the knowledge of certain things, and they would go away and investigate the claims from these Dawagandists, then realize that it's all false, then expose them. And then they would get hit with something else. So they would go away, explore it, expose it, rinse and repeat again and again. Now they got to the point that that's it, everything has been explored. The Wagandists now do not engage with a Christian apologist who is knowledgeable. They would actually approach people who have nothing, they have no idea about religion. They have not explored anything about Islam. So if you check Speaker's Corner, they will not engage with the ones that are basically the pros. The Wagandists will just run. So if you used to see that there were lots of debates in the past between Christian apologists and Dawagandists, it happened a lot. Now it doesn't happen. Dawagandists, they have to run. They don't have any answers. Take that together with this thing here from Robert Spencer. They don't want people to engage in debates. And at one point, if you've been following Assim al-Hakkem, funny name if you think about it, Assim al-Hakkem, who said to people as well, do not listen to debates, do not look at debates, don't do anything of the sort, because otherwise you put doubts into your heart. This is a whole system where you have the liars preventing people from seeing the truth. And Muslims are just being lied to about everything. So this is what is happening at the moment. The attacks in Israel, they didn't happen by coincidence. Boko Haram in Nigeria is not a coincidence. All of those things are happening because Islam can no longer be defended. People are now too clever. We have done our due diligence. We have studied their sources. They cannot pull the wool over our eyes anymore. Okay? That's the reason. That's the reason everything is happening. They cannot defend Islam anymore. And remember, Islam is not just a religion, it's a deen. It's the political system, it's the law system, it's the religion, and the weakest link is the religion. They think that everything comes from there, so they have to keep people ignorant. And we're going to see as well how that is really being played out in actuality, right? So Muslims are not allowed to get to know the truth. And in order to do that, you've seen deception, change topics, and so on. So let's see another one that you are very familiar with. We're not going to show the video, but you will be able to watch it later. If you haven't, it's a phenomenal thing. And it's, sorry, this is just the Return of the King. Hopefully you're understanding why people are not touching this. They're on the side of the bad guys. And Mayar Tousi has explained that for us, which is phenomenal. Now, this guy, this is a very good video. Make sure that you actually watch it. Have you seen those little videos online of Muslims and sometimes non-Muslims saying, oh, did you guys know that before the Europeans got to Australia, Muslims got to Australia? Have you seen that one? Huh? Have you seen that one? The same strategy was actually used with the whole thing of Palestine. But look at the maps, it says Palestine. So you see these people were here from the beginning. It's like, do you know where the Temple Mount was built or the Dome of the Rock? You know, these sort of things. You've probably seen videos as well of Muslims saying, well, actually, the ones who discovered the Americas were not the Europeans. It was the Muslims. Have you seen that? I don't know why Elon Musk is really trying to get a rocket to Mars. I think it's pointless because, as we all know, when he gets to Mars, he will find Muslims there. They seem to have been there all along. We are getting all of this rewriting of history, which is interesting. So this guy, and you can see this in the video, Muslim investors wanted me to rewrite Viking history. So this guy could have taken a bucket load of money and just lied about the history of the Vikings. Muslim Vikings, huh? He exposed the trick for everybody. Now you know that there is all of this money being thrown into the mix to change history. Why is it that we have a very different idea about what slavery is? You see, this has been a topic of much controversy. It is actually still to this day. And the word on the street, what everybody has been told is Europeans bad, white people bad, Christians bad because of slavery. It's like wrong. The majority, everybody was doing slavery in human history. That's what it's been. And also, Islam was the worst. In fact, in Saudi only abolished slavery in 1962 because of pressure from the French and the Brits. No one is talking about that. Are you seeing the whole rewriting of history? All of these things are not happening just because the globalists are idiots. It's happening because there is an agenda behind it. So you need to stop getting distracted with all of these things that they are throwing at you. You need to wisen up. Just like the Christian apologists have wisen up. In the past, when they were doing debates, a Muslim would jump on and try to change the topic, and they would change the topic. They would say, oh yeah, but what about Isaiah 42 or whatever? And then the Christian apologists would change. Now that's not happening. The Christian apologists, they got much better. They were great to begin with, and now they took it to a whole different level. Now they will present a topic. This is what we're going to talk about. When a Muslim gets in there, it's like, answer this question, just address this problem. And when they don't, it's like, okay, you're out. Next. They try to change the topic, they don't go there because they realize it's all a distraction. You listening to this, you have Christian values. So you would understand that if somebody actually tells you, oh yeah, but what about whatever, your value system or your beliefs or your whatever, that you will then have to stop and defend your position. It's like in Islam, you cannot do that. The whole game is about not discussing their sources. And as I said, we're sitting down and we're discussing that. So this great guy has showed to the world that all of this stupid propaganda going around, oh, the Muslims were the first ones everywhere. We now know where this is coming from. Okay, it's coming from people with money, and he calls them investors for some reason. So there is this rewrite of history that is happening in front of our eyes. However, for the people such as myself who are studying the Quran, we know it hasn't been preserved. We know it told a different story. We are exposing that lie. We get fingers pointed at us saying, oh, well, these people are revisionists. They're revisionists. They're trying to change the history. And it's like, no, this is like with everything else, is deflection. They are the ones really trying to change the history to make themselves look good and basically just cause more trouble in the West. And then the people who genuinely are trying to expose the lies that we've been told about the history, we're supposed to be the ones trying to rewrite history. We're not trying to rewrite history. We're trying to find out exactly what happened, because we see that even in the 21st century, these people are lying about everything. We've seen quite a few of them already. And look at this. But now, finally, at long last, we're having people, like in this case, Raymond Ibrahim and Winston Marshall, exploring these things. Now, Raymond Ibrahim, he's a historian, so he exposes things, like in this case, the hypocrisy of Algeria, where the French went to Algeria to stop them from the continuing their slave trade. So they went in there, kicked some arse to stop them from enslaving people. And now the Algerians, they have just forgotten all of that and they want reparations. It's like, guys, what are you talking about? So make sure that you watch that very short video from Raymond Ibrahim and you will find it fascinating. So the other guy is Winston Marshall, who is having lots of guests. He's trying to get to what is going on. He is exposing a lot of the lies that we are told, particularly about the history and so on. So when it comes to history, my view is that we should all be told everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly, not just focusing on one little thing completely out of context and saying, you see, this is horrible. It's like, yeah, history has been horrible. I don't know if you've seen anything from the past. Everything has been horrible all the time, okay? But don't just zero in on one thing, leave all of the context out and use that for political gain. Give us everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. For example, you are Christians watching, is like, okay, Galileo, let's actually talk about Galileo. You want to actually have that discussion? Let's actually bring everything back up. It's not like the Christians didn't ever do anything wrong. Yeah, the Christians and the Jews and the Muslims and everybody has done bad things. But instead of looking at one thing and then just exploiting that without any context, we should have a full history. Now, these guys are doing a very good job because they are showing how the propaganda in the media is giving us only propaganda. It's just one-sided, very narrow view of something that happens, and they ignore all of the context. Raymond Ibrahim, as a scholar, he's particularly good at that. So I suggest that you watch his breakdowns of history and how they're actually trying to change it. And do remember as well to watch this video that we've shown, because it's very good. He just explains like, yeah, they came to me with money, and I said no. So give this man a cigar. Okay, let's look at how this propaganda actually works a little bit more. I think we have shown plenty already and how they try to confuse you and make sure that you don't see what is going on. So this guy is Assim al-Hakkem. I use him as a just a template. Imams, sheikhs, dawagandis, they're all the same, okay? Different makeup. So have you heard from this guy that they have to play nice until they're strong? See that? And then it's saying things like, we are the fastest growing religion. And also, oh, we're going to take over and impose Sharia. And also, you will get 3 options. Have you heard this guy and other imams and sheikhs and dawagandis say these sort of things? It really depends if they are cornered or not. But when they're being truthful, this is exactly what they are going to show. Now, think about this. We are the fastest growing religion. What is happening in Iran? Does it sound like that's the case? Okay, I have changed my mind because I am showing lots of clips today. So let's actually show you this clip. It's been a while. This one is a little bit old. So if you haven't watched, make sure that you actually find it here and watch it in full. But look what happened. This was during a conversation between the Apostate Prophet and Michaila Peterson, right? This was at the time when Jordan Peterson had been speaking with Mohammed Hijab, and they were having some interest in Islam. And see what happens, and also look at her response, how she reacts to what is going to happen. So enjoy.
When Muslims go and conquer the adjacent country, the Prophet says, the first thing you do is call them to Islam. If they accept it, leave them. Khalas, they're Muslims, we go. If they refuse, then tell them Allah obliged upon you to pay taxation, jizya. When enemy comes and attack your country, you don't fight. We Muslims protect you. But the ruling is for Sharia. So you do not open nightclubs, you do not fornicate in the streets, you do not, no, Sharia rules. If they refuse, then we have to fight. And if we fight you, then we capture you, you become our slaves, and we take your land, and you take where, because you refuse, I give you 2 good options. This is the strength of Islam. But nowadays, forget this. Maybe in the coming 40, 50 years, when the Muslims become strong as they're supposed to be.
Just
if they refuse,
yeah.
he actually says something here.
Two good options.
Okay, so how about that? Wasn't that a fun clip? So this is a lot of what is happening. So on the one hand, you have people like that, like Assim al-Hakkem, saying very clearly what it is that is going on, what the game is, how they are playing. He's saying absolutely everything. But you are not allowed to say those things, because if you do it, you are an Islamophobe. See the problem? This conversation is not being had because of people like Piers Morgan and others. We're going to show you another one in a second, who just pretend that there is no problem. There is a problem, and we need to talk about this. And in order for you to not have that conversation, they're just throwing every single obstacle in your way, every single possible lie, and so on. Assim al-Hakkem has told you clearly what they are trying to do. Does that mean that he is what? What is he? Is he a follower of Islam, the religion of peace? Because what he said doesn't sound very peaceful to me. Or is he an Islamist? Okay, so if he's an Islamist, What is it that he has said that is not about Islam? That is the elephant in the room. What is the teachings of Islam? Right? It's just how it is. So let's carry on and show you another guy. We're not going to show the clip this time because we need to get to something interesting, which is one of the main videos that we're going to discuss here today. So, does it sound to you like the Islamic Republic of Iran collapsing is because Islam is the fastest growing religion? There is a clip. I haven't actually, let me see actually if I can find it so that you can watch it later. I will not play it for you. Actually, I will not. There is already too many clips on this one show. So in Iran, you have over 60% of people, they are no longer Muslims. It doesn't mean that they are not practicing. It means they are not Muslims. They are fed up with Islam, but you don't get to see this information. What you get, this propaganda thing, is every Muslim will say, we're the fastest growing religion, we're the fastest growing religion, we are outbreeding everyone. That is literally not true. And if you go to the channel, for example, of Hatun Tash, you will see her showing clips probably about a year ago of how people are panicking in Pakistan and lots of other things. But this is part of the whole deception. This map here comes from Wikipedia. If you can see here Iran, do you see it very, very dark? They're saying that 90 to 100% of people in there, they are Muslims. No, they are not. Over 60% of people, they are not Muslims. This is part of the whole deception. Every so-called Islamic country, their numbers are beyond inflated. On the one hand, they're going to say that just everybody is a Muslim, because of course they have to. Those numbers are not true. They're just not true. You don't have 1.8 billion Muslims around the world. Also, in lots of these countries, if you have already left Islam, you are still going to pretend. You're going to go to the mosque, you're going to do the prayer. You are at that point agnostic or atheist or something else. You will pretend, because otherwise apostasy laws apply and you get unalived real quick. That's not the case. Years ago, they did some hush-hush interviews in the lands of Saudi Arabia to try to find out if people were 100% Muslim, as you would expect from the heart of Islam. 10% of people, they said they were no longer Muslims. And these, imagine, most of the people that they asked, they would lie. They would lie about it. Because if you're in that land and they tell you, what do you follow? You will say, I'm a Muslim, don't worry, alhamdulillah. You have to say it, otherwise you are in trouble. So the amount of deception in all of this is ridiculous. If you go to Pew Research, they will tell you how it's the fastest growing religion because they have this huge birth rate. That is true. The problem is when they move from their lands to Europe, their numbers level out. They also don't take into account the huge levels of apostasy which they are trying to hide. As I said, rule of thumb, if they tell you they are the fastest growing religion, what they really mean, they are the fastest declining religion. When they tell you we have ticked all of the boxes, we have the book perfectly preserved, you know the opposite is true in every single case. It's part of the whole deception to keep you running in circles. Look at this. We have this gentleman here. So here you have his name, his website, and some videos. I recommend you you watch something from him. This guy was a Muslim in Iran, and then, long story short, he picked up the Bible, and then he became a Christian preacher. Last year, they already said that the largest underground church in the world is in Iran, with over 10% of people being Christian. So you do the math. Over 10% of people in Iran, they are Christian. Over 60%, they are no longer Muslims. So you have about probably 50% of the population who are now agnostics, atheists, Zoroastrians, and so on. They are fed up with Islam. But when you look at the numbers, they're going to tell you fastest growing religion. Does the collapse in Iran look like the fastest growing religion? Most of the people, they are no longer Muslims. And one of the reasons that Saudi Arabia and the UAE, they are exporting anyone who causes trouble, that is telling you clearly that their population, they already know what is going on. They know that Islam is false. for many reasons. I mean, in Saudi Arabia, for example, there is this place called the Zamzam well in Mecca, where they say that it is a well that has infinite supply of water because Allah makes sure that it gets topped up. Okay, that's not the case. That well has been empty for a really long time. They are putting water into the well from desalination plants in Jeddah, and then they're getting the water out of there. Okay, so they're putting the water in. It's not Allah doing it, it is their people. Everybody in the region, they know that. But if you go around the world, you will still be able to buy Zamzam well water. It's like, why? Why? The people over there, they know the whole thing is a scam to get money. So in Saudi, now that the IQs have gone much higher, now that they're educating their people, they have left Islam. But most of them, they're still pretending. The whole thing is basically a scam, and they know. When they tell you fastest growing religion, that's not the case. Now, if you want to have a little bit of fun, you can go to this channel. You probably know them, Jai and Daughter of Christ. And pretty much in every single one of their live streams, they begin with an intro, which is phenomenal. It's a song, and they show these imams and sheikhs and so on saying that there is a huge problem with apostasy. These are screenshots of two of the sections of the intro. One is this guy saying there is going to be an avalanche of apostasy. Yeah. And this guy saying 24% of Muslims youth are leaving Islam. This was years ago. Now it's more than 24. Does this sound like the fastest growing religion? It is the fastest declining the religion. This is the reason why all of a sudden in the United Kingdom, they are trying to get imams and sheikhs to go into schools and teach kids to pray, to pray to Allah and to go to the mosque and all of these things for two reasons. Number one is because they are desperate for numbers. So they are now trying to get to the kids very early on when they are very susceptible and they can lie to them all day long. That's number one. Second, they don't have the numbers. Islam, following this trend, collapses. Look at the Islamic Republic. This is what happens in the Middle East. But you get in Europe, and what you get is the complete different message. The Dawagandis, these same guys, will be saying that Islam is the fastest growing religion, and then when they're speaking with each other, they will say, we cannot cope with these levels of apostasy. Something has to be done. Yes, the problem happens to be the religion itself. It can no longer be defended. People are just now too smart. They have too high IQs. It takes 20 years for you to create a jihadist, but it takes half an hour for their whole belief system to collapse and to see that they are on the side of liars. Okay, so that's why the numbers don't make sense. They are collapsing. Hence why everything that we are saying, because something bad needs to happen before everything collapses. Now, more about the propaganda. Do you see? They know that the levels of apostasy are ridiculous, but they will still pretend, most of these Muslim youth, they will still go to the mosque and they will be counted in statistics as being Muslims. That's not the case. They are not Muslims anymore, but they are counted as though they were. So their religion is in trouble. Hence why everybody should get involved, the sooner the better, and be very aware of the propaganda. So now we have this guy, for instance, and I'm going to do a full breakdown of his conversation at the PBD podcast because, oh my goodness me, it was very, very cool to see this guy saying things that have nothing to do with Islam. But anyway, so some of the things that this guy says is Muslim Brotherhood bad. Yeah, we agree on that one. They're bad. He also says, why are the Europeans and the West allowing them to operate freely when in the Middle East they are banned? They are bad and they are the source of all evil, including that much of what is happening now was planned by the Muslim Brotherhood like 100 years ago. But of course, they couldn't predict that we would have something called the internet and that people will start studying the religion. So everything that we are seeing is a pushback against this new technology and people realizing there is a problem and looking for a solution. Another thing that he says, which is surprising because he's Shia, that Khamenei is a criminal and that he has what? hijacked the religion. So this guy is now going around the houses saying that the religion was hijacked by very bad people because Muhammad was perfect and he was all peaceful. It's like, no, my man, we have the sources. We've read the hadiths, okay? We know what happened and it is not peaceful. But he's now going around with this piece of propaganda saying the religion was always about the religion of peace. He goes by the tag of Imam of Peace, and it is just very bad people who hijack the religion. It's like, what are you talking about? Everything that he's saying is just not true. The religion has been violent from day one. He doesn't get to say who is the one who hijacked the religion. In fact, that is one of the central topics that we address here. The Quran was at one point a Judeo-Christian text. It had nothing to do with Muhammad or with Islam. Those things appear later. So he is right that not Islam, but the Quran was hijacked and a religion was invented. The thing is that instead of going all the way back to the source and to the origins, he decides to go 200 years later and telling a different story of what happened. Muhammad, super peaceful, but the problem is that people are saying that things were violent. It's like, dude, we have the sources. You don't get to rewrite history. It's not going to happen. And then we have this conversation here. I'm not going to play the clip, but you can go and watch it. So after the Bondi Beach shootings, we have here Kevin O'Sullivan, and he's talking with the Imam of Peace, who is saying the same things. Is the Muslim Brotherhood. You have let very bad people into your countries. Your politicians are corrupt, whatever it is, those sort of things. And then at the very end, you have here Kevin O'Sullivan going, okay, but I see you, Imam of Peace, and you are very nice and you're very peaceful. So Islam is about peace. So the real problem is Islamists. And this is really pissing me off. A person speaking from complete and utter ignorance is saying that the problem is Islamist. The problem is clearly something to do within Islam. You need to address that problem. What are the Islamists doing that is not in Islam? What is it? What is the teaching? Imagine this: you are Christian, or you understand Christian values. In the Bible, it says that Jesus said to the apostles, if you don't have a sword, sell a cloak and buy one. Okay? That is in the Bible. Imagine you had 300 million Christians going around hacking people to pieces, pointing at that verse and saying, oh, well, you see, this is what Jesus commanded, because he said to the apostles to buy a sword. So this is what we need to do. What do you think would happen to Christendom? What do you think would do the rest of Christians? Do you think they would let them go unchecked? Or they would go in there and kick some arse and tell them, no, you are exegeting this verse incorrectly. This is not what Jesus meant at all. Okay? So stop it. You would expect them to take matters into their own hands and stop people corrupting the words of Jesus. But when we come to Islam, we have, the problem is the Islamists. They are really following these weird doctrines. Okay, which ones? What are they being told that are not the teachings of Islam? And why are the rest of the Muslims, 85% of them who are perfectly peaceful, not going in there and kicking some arse and stopping that? Why are they not stopping ISIS, Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, the Islamic Republic, Boko Haram, and all of those? Why are they keeping their mouths shut? If those other people that comes in the hundreds of millions are misinterpreting their teachings, why are they not doing anything about it? And if you're saying, no, there are some people here and there are some activists, don't give me that crap, okay? That's not the case at all. We will discuss maybe some other time. But this is the problem. We're getting the information from people who have no idea, and now they are in the media, like this Kevin O'Sullivan, pushing a new message to the public, and that is Islamist. Islam is about peace, because look at the Imam of Peace, Imam Tawhidi. He's super nice. So Islam is peace. I trust you, bro. And then the problem is Islamist, but let's not talk about it. We don't know. It's very confusing. It's weird. I don't know. You see the problem? And this guy is another huge problem in that whole thing. Because like we said before, he will say with one breath, with the same breath, we need to talk about Islam, but when somebody says something that is critical of Islam, he will say, oh, that's very Islamophobic. the conversation needs to be had. And you have to stop using a word that was introduced by the Muslim Brotherhood so that you don't talk about the very many multiple Qurans, about the edits to their books, about the problem with the history, and very importantly, the meaning of the Quran itself. Okay? Stop using that word. And then he would say something, this is stupid. We're going to go through the video now. If Islam is about violence, then why do we not see more of this? Because you see, this is his reasoning. He says, if there are 2 billion Muslims and Islam teaches violence, then we would have, everybody would be fighting all the time. But that's not what we get. Mostly it's peaceful. And I have lots of Muslim friends, and they tell me that it's all about peace. So he decides what Islam is based on his own observation, right? We're going to say something. And then he will conclude, so the problem is not Islam. Islam is peaceful. Most of my friends are Muslim friends are very peaceful. So we have Islamists. It's like, my man, are you going to address the problem? What are these Islamists doing that is not in Islam, that is not their teachings? Where is the corruption? Why you just call people either Islamophobes or Islamists, and at no point you are addressing the problem? Could it be that the problem is, this is according to Grok, so it could be wrong. Do forgive me if all of this is wrong. I asked Grok, how many times has Piers Morgan been to the Middle East in like the previous year? And it told me this. So he's been to Qatar, oh look, the Emir, and the UAE, Saudi Arabia. He's like, are you kidding me? Do you really think that this guy is maybe a little bit biased? If he has been shaking hands with the Emir of Qatar and with MBS, they haven't been chopping heads in front of him, have they? So he goes there, he's treated like a king, and oh, look at these people. They want commerce, they want to get along with people. They say that they love Israel. Everything is amazing. So the problem must be Islamist. And he will get from those countries, oh no, we don't have Islamists here. We don't allow them here. They can go somewhere else. It's like, there shouldn't be any Islamist if it's the religion of peace. So what is the problem here? Could this guy be incredibly biased? And because he goes to these places and they act like the religion of peace, then it becomes the religion of peace in his head. And then he speaks with his friend, his Muslim friends, and they say it's all about peace. And he just says, okay, religion of peace. How about if we take Piers Morgan and we send him to the middle of ISIS or the Taliban to spend there 3 months? And then we bring him back out. And he's like, okay, is it the religion of peace still? Or have you got a different perspective? What do those guys do that Muhammad didn't do or command? Or that is not in Sharia? Or that is not in the Hadith? This is what happens. The majority of Muslims don't know anything about the religion. They are used as useful idiots. When we do the show on questions about Islam, you will see that very clearly. Most Muslims don't know anything about Islam. They're just being used. They're being told, go to the mosque, do the wudu like this, do the prayer like this, repetition, 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 all the time. And keep going on the streets saying, we are the religion of peace, keep going on the streets saying that Sharia would be better for everybody. They don't know anything about Islam. The ones that follow the religion, they are the extremists. And if you wanted to know how that looks like, look at Iran. They were very happy to get the Shias in charge of the country because they promised how incredibly great everything was. Really, they have ended up having to kick them out by force after a really long time. This is what happens in Islam. People are being told a lie so that Islam takes over. And then the mayhem and the carnage begins until people actually have to revolt. Okay? It is not the religion of peace. It is propaganda. The sources are there. I don't even know why we're having this conversation. All that you have to do is go and read it. But fortunately, we have in this case, this video in here, the Apostate Prophet and David Wood. And David Wood actually, he's normally very, very spot on when he's talking about Islam. And this one, perhaps more than ever before, he got it incredibly right. So let's actually see a little bit of this conversation between Piers Morgan and Mosab Yousef and what David Wood particularly has to say about it. Okay, well, Let's see what is going to be said here.
Muslims agree with these Islamists. A lot of Muslims share this feeling, to which my instinctive response is, well, if that is the case, if even you had 10% of the world's Muslims who felt that way, that's 200 million people. So there would be these atrocities happening all the time.
Okay, problems immediately. You see what he says? Well, my instinctive reaction or opinion would be, it's like nobody cares. He's speaking from complete and utter ignorance. It's this simple. Do you remember what we have just seen from Assim al-Hakkem? Actually, David Wood is going to comment on that one in a moment. It is the plan. It is a whole strategy. It is part of Sharia. It is part of, you have to follow our leader, which contradicts completely what Muslims do, contradict Surah 9, verse 31 entirely. But that's a different conversation. We're not going into the Quran today. But he has his opinion. Could his opinion be because he speaks with his Muslim friends and they say we are all about peace, and he concludes that is Islam? Is it possible that maybe, just maybe, those Muslim friends, they don't know anything about Islam and they're being used as useful idiots, and the ones that know everything about it, they happen to be the extremists? Is it possible that it is the other way around? This guy doesn't get it. He has his own bias by spending probably time with these very nice, peaceful Muslims in the Middle East. Go to ISIS, go to Syria, go to Iraq, go to those places, and then see how, well, if you actually get out of there. See, complete ignorance, but he is pushing this message to countless people. Let's see what David Wood, how he takes this down for us.
And they're not. And in fact, I would go further and say that about 80 to 90% of all the victims of Islamist terrorism are fellow Muslims, right? So it's not as straightforward.
Absolutely correct. On that one is absolutely correct. And there is something that we don't discuss enough on this channel, but the first victims of Islam, they are the Muslims. We have already shown you the problems with the Quran, with the preservation, with all of this propaganda. All of that is not just addressed to the non-Muslims so that you keep thinking that Islam is the religion of peace. The first people to be lied about all of this are Muslims who are in it with the best intention at heart. They think that Islam is about truth. So we need to tell them that that's actually not the case. They are the first ones. And as David Wood is going to explain, they are the ones that are in danger of being radicalized and also of being unalived.
Dope. He said, if you knew why, Piers, why are so many Muslims the victims of attacks by their fellow Muslims? Oh, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. It makes perfect sense. Muhammad said that he had been commanded to wage jihad not only against unbelievers, but also against hypocrites, people who are officially Muslims, but they're not following it properly. They're hypocrites. You are supposed to wage jihad against them too. When ISIS jihadis go kill a bunch of Shias, are they just killing a bunch of their random fellow Muslims? No, they're slaughtering people that they regard as hypocrites and apostates and everything else. That's who they're killing. And you know, it doesn't make sense. They're killing their fellow Muslims. It makes. How are you a journalist who's been interviewing people all these years and you still don't know like something that you could literally read one verse of the Quran and it would clear this up for you? It's Surah 9 verse 73. Pierce, Surah 9 verse 73. It's easy. It's easy to understand.
But shocking. Muslims kill each other.
So you see, he's actually doing a very good job at just explaining very clearly, like, dude, all of these things make perfect sense. But you have someone like Piers Morgan, like, oh, well, I don't understand. There would be more violence. There isn't enough violence for Islam to not be the religion of peace. And when there is violence, that's, I don't know. Dude, pick up the book and read it. Understand it. Speak with people who have studied this from outside of Islam. If you speak with your Muslim friends, they're the first ones that are being lied to. Do you really think that if you ask your Muslim friends, hey, how many times did Jibril choke Muhammad in the cave of Hira? They don't know what you're talking about. All that your Muslim friends have been told is Muhammad went to the cave of Hira and Jibril appeared and told him to read. That's what they are going to tell you. They haven't been told any stories as they are in there. You have to speak with someone who has been studying Islam from a neutral point of view, from outside of Islam. Otherwise, what you are getting from Muslims is lies that they have been told. Unless that person happens to be an Islamist and he is openly lying to you. But most likely, you are dealing with somebody who is being used by the Islamists as a useful idiot. And you are too lazy or ignorant to investigate on what the teachings are. And then you are parroting nonsense, like it's all Islamist. Okay, what are they being taught? Can you tell me what they're being taught? I don't know. If they were violent, we would have more violence. Nonsense.
Yeah, and that stupid comment. Well, if they took this jihad stuff seriously, then we'd see so many more attacks. People who know about jihad, we've seen the Sheikh Assim al-Hakkem clip. You are not supposed to be waging jihad right now. Why? There are too many nations with militaries that are more powerful than you. Therefore, you're supposed to be preparing right now. That's what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be preparing. There are times when you can wage terrorist attacks and so on, but as far as what the general Muslim population is supposed to be doing, according to Islam, is preparing. That's what you're supposed to be doing right now. And with the 3 stages of jihad, if you can't hope to win a physical confrontation with the unbelievers, you promote a message of peace and tolerance. If you're strong enough to fight defensive jihad, but not able to subjugate, then fight defensive jihad. Wait till someone else does something. You have a big violent reaction to it to warn them not to do that again. Then when you're actually the strongest force and you can subjugate people, then you subjugate the world. That's the pattern. So don't think because this guy isn't attacking you that he doesn't believe in jihad. If he actually understands about jihad and he's in the United States, he's not supposed to be slaughtering you. He's supposed to be preparing for you. Anyway,
this is what Raymond Ibrahim describes as there are the Meccan verses and then there are the Medinan verses. The Meccan verses is we don't have the numbers, so we have to play nice. And the Medinan verses is, okay, now we have the numbers, now we go on the offense. Okay, so do you see how the whole deception in Islam comes from the very beginning? Are you understanding a little bit better when we have this problem now, even in the media, where you're being thrown all of this different information so that you don't get to the bottom of it? I hope it's making sense. Let me know in the comment section below. Let's listen to Mosab Yousef, who, remember, this guy is a very unique individual because he was raised as a jihadist. Okay? He was a full-blown jihadist, and he managed to change course somehow. That doesn't mean that every jihadist can do it. It's quite the opposite. This guy is like 1 in a million. Let's see what he says.
They have celebrated October 7th. Then they celebrated ballistic missile attacks on civilians in Israel, where they ran like... It was insane to see that celebration against civilians and the indiscriminate attack against civilians. And many of them, by the way, back in the day also celebrated suicide bombing attacks. So now the thing is the problem is not with the Muslims. The problem is with Islam itself, with jihad itself. And
so now you have this guy speaking with Piers Morgan, who doesn't understand anything about Islam. Hence why, oh, well, there is Islamophobia and then there are Islamists, but we don't know, je ne sais pas. And this guy is saying, like, very clearly, the problem is with Islam. It's not the Muslims, okay? Stop thinking about the Muslims. They're the first ones that are being lied to about everything. The problem is with Islam, the teachings of Islam. It's jihad. So, or are you going to say, no, it's a religion of peace, so jihad is actually not a teaching of Islam. It was invented late. Of course not. Of course not. Nobody would actually say that. And here, actually, he, I think, continues with that.
No, I haven't said a thing. Go on.
The Muslims, the vast majority of Muslims are peaceful people. They don't want violence. This is the human nature. The human nature is against violence. This is what makes us different than the animals. But the problem, when Muslims identify with Islam, they give cover to the jihadists. And in many cases, they identify with something they completely oppose. And
Yeah, so that's very important, except that many of them, they actually have no idea. They really think that Islam is the religion of peace because that's what their imams have told them and what their families have told them. And they oppose violence and they have been pretty much Christianized there in the West. They follow the 10 Commandments. Islam is opposed to all of that, but they give cover to the really, really bad people. That's a huge portion of the problem. That's why you speak with a Muslim. If he's not trying to analyze you, that means he's a useful idiot. When he says they give cover to the jihadists, there is a term for that, useful idiot. They would oppose everything to do with Islam, but they haven't been told anything about it.
But again, I come back to the fact that we tend to tar 2 billion people with...
No, we don't. When you do something and it's actually connected to the ideology, then we condemn you for following the ideology, and we condemn the ideology for telling you to do it. No, we don't blame 2 billion people because we don't have 2 billion people all following it.
So again, we see here the problem is with the ideology. And Piers Morgan, as he's already made his conclusion. It's all about peace, but there are some people who are bad. It's like you have to explore the ideology. The same teachings cannot create very horrible Muslims and very good Muslims. It's impossible, okay? There is something beneath that, and that's what has to actually be explored or underneath that, okay? That's the whole point. Explore the ideology and find out where the information breaks down. Who follows the actual ideology and who doesn't. This is the one question they don't want to address. They don't want to tell the world, or maybe they don't realize themselves, that there is no such thing as Islamist. Those are the guys that actually follow Islam. And all of the other peaceful ones, they are not. They don't follow that. And like David Wood says, if Islam takes over in those lands, those are the ones that will be in trouble. Actually, that will come in a second.
Pierce is the example of what Mosab just pointed out, that because they're not obeying what Islam teaches, that they're the cover. And Pierce is like, yeah, so how can we condemn the ideology when so many people appear? See, you're doing exactly what you just said.
This happens during this interview again and again, where Piers has already decided it's all about peace. If it wasn't about peace, everybody would be violent. He's like, no, you don't understand that there are different levels here. And it is those who are not violent, those who are at risk of radicalization, the ones that are going to get blamed, the ones in the greatest level of danger, and the ones also unknowingly, for the most part, protecting the really bad guys. And this will be the last section, which I think is perhaps the most important that we have seen today.
He will refute the Australian government
committing terrible acts. In other words, it seems to me that the majority of Muslims in the US and the UK go about their lives integrated pretty well with the culture and society they live in, and don't want to pursue acts of violence. And so I come back to the fact that if you take that across the world with 2 billion people, the number of extremists is very small. Otherwise, we'd be seeing a lot more of this stuff going on. So, again, I don't know what the answer is here, but I do know that...
Again, the whole thing, I don't know what the answer is. So maybe you should, I don't know, study it, research it, or maybe just listen to the guy who is in front of you, who happened to have been raised as a jihadist, and he managed to break through, and he's literally explaining it to you. Why would he still go, I don't know what the answer is? Dude, he's telling you what the answer is. Why are you not listening? Do you see the whole problem with the whole propaganda? Piers Morgan, just like before we saw Kevin O'Sullivan, they've decided it's all about peace and Islamists are a problem. They are not crossing that bridge. They're not saying, okay, what is the problem? Why, when people are saying very bad things about Islam, they are Islamophobes? It's like, maybe what they are saying is actually about Islam and it has nothing to do with Muslims. Maybe that should be investigated. Do you see the hypocrisy and why all of these things are being used for people to just be confused, because you will be parroting this same thing. Before I started to study Islam, I would have been parroting this, because the Muslims I have met have been perfectly nice. So I would have really said, yeah, it's a religion of peace. I know Muslims. They are wonderful people. And I would have been wrong. They are not Muslims. If Islam takes over, they're the first one to get the sword. Okay? David Wood's going to explain that for us.
It's not a case that the majority of Muslims support this or
Who
want any part
cares?
of it. And that's my problem with how these, when these incidents blow up, I go on social media and all I see is appalling Islamophobia.
And here we go with the damn word again. Is this guy would say, well, there is a problem, and certainly he's speaking with Mosab Yousef about this. There is a problem, but then when people are criticizing these actions which come from Islam, well, that is Islamophobia. It's like, no, it is teachings that they are not compatible with the modern world. There are teachings that come from the 7th century Arabia. A conversation needs to be had. And if 2 billion people are following that, or they are told that they have to follow that, of course, they're going to be upset when they find out that the whole thing has been nothing but a big, big lie, which is what we do here on the channel. Look at the Quran. Turns out it doesn't talk about Muhammad and Islam and all of those things. It was a different book from different tradition, stolen and then twisted. And here we are. People are not happy with that.
I also see a lot of anti-Semitism. I see a lot of hatred generally spewing around. But it just remains clear to me that the vast majority of Muslims do not want to be violent. And yet there is this perception amongst people that that's the inevitability.
Notice how Mosab actually shares information every time, and Piers just keeps saying the same stupid, idiotic nonsense over and over again.
Of a growing Muslim population is they want to take over the country, like in the UK, they want to take us over.
I mean, they're literally telling you they want to take over. And here's how it works, Piers. Here's how it works, Piers. You've got peaceful Muslims minding their own business, just working and so on. And then you got the Muslims who are like, we're going to keep expanding and growing until we take over. Eventually, if you get to where they have a massive percentage, it doesn't even have to be the majority. It just has to be enough to take over. And you guys will be so weak and cowardly that you won't stand against them. But all the Muslims who just mind their own business, they'll eventually be told, you need to get on board or you'll be a target too.
And that's the long and the short of it. Make sure that you actually watch the rest of that breakdown. They actually did a very, very good job there. But this is exactly how it is. The ideology is like a huge pyramid scheme. The ones on the top, they know the whole thing is a lie. They know it's all about power and about money and women and controlling people and so on. Those are the guys at the top. Everybody else, who are the ones that we have met in our lives, they have no idea what Islam is. They haven't been told. It's part of the whole game. They have to be really kept. They have to be kept in the dark, and they will be used. They are being used as the cover for everything, because this is what is happening. You know, very nice, peaceful Muslims, so that becomes Islam. And then the Islamists, we don't understand what the problem is with them, what their teachings are, but don't investigate, okay? So that's the whole problem. Anyway, I think we have shown you, hopefully here on the show, lots of the different problems that we're having where Islam is at the center. Rewriting the history, the mainstream media ignoring very important events, like in this case, the decline, the collapse of the Islamic Republic of Iran, the lies about the fastest growing religion, the lies with the preservation of the Quran, and so on. So we know that things are going to get very, very hot because Islam can no longer be defended. So something needs to happen, which is a very scary time to, be around, because something needs to give. And that's just how it is. So if you want to be involved in all of this, if you realize that there are problems out there, what I would tell you, the word of advice, do not change the topics, or rather do not let them change the topics. If you have to address Sharia, address Sharia. And when they tell you, yes, but look about Christianity in the 1500s, ignore any BS they tell you and stick to solving one problem and continue doing that. If your expertise is with history, talk about history. If your expertise is about apologetics, do that. If it is with hadiths and knowledge like that, do it. The preservation of the Quran or false claims of preservation, whatever it is, but do not let them change the topic. Everything that every single person out there, Muslims and non-Muslims, like we can see here, Piers, they will be speaking from ignorance. They have already made their own conclusions, and now they're pushing propaganda. Some of them, they know that, and they're getting money, and some of them, they have no idea even what they are doing. Ignore all of that noise and stay the course. Here on this channel, we actually just go back to the Quran. We have shown this now many, many times, and I'd say this is the best video for you to watch if you are new to the channel. This is perhaps one of the easiest videos that we've actually put out, because we show how the Quran very clearly had nothing to do with Islam and with Muhammad and so on. How it was a book from a Judeo-Christian tradition, which they used in order to fabricate a religion later. Okay, so if you are new to the channel or you are very confused about what is going on in the world with all of these things going on and the media playing their bit and something bad happens like the grooming gangs and then there is all of this propaganda, but in Islam we're not allowed even to touch a woman. How is that even possible? It's like, dude, these guys are doing horrible things while reciting the Quran. I think it has something to do with Islam. Look about the things from Assim al-Hakkem and so on. If you are confused with all of that, pick one topic. Don't let them distract you and follow that through all the way to the end. And if you're quite new to this, here on the channel, we're trying to really keep things as simple as possible. So I would encourage you to actually watch that video to familiarize yourself with the latest research that is going on, with the historical critique of Islam and the Quran and so on, and help educate people. Because we have too many people out there, like Piers Morgan and Kevin Sullivan, and just about everybody else, who have no idea what is going on, and what they are doing is spouting lies, and they don't even realize. People to follow, obviously, Raymond Ibrahim. He's doing a phenomenal job showing what the history was meant to be like and how they have changed that for us. And also Winston Marshall, who is really on an exploration mission. So anyway, I hope that you have enjoyed this unusual breakdown. We thought it would be a good thing to discuss what is happening in Iran very briefly and showing how all of these links to the problems with the religion cannot be defended. Stay tuned for the next episodes. Soon we're going to have one where we go through some very basic stuff about Islam that Muslims don't know. So you can get involved on that one, and it should be quite a fun episode. So until then, I hope that all of you stay well. God bless you all. See you soon. Bye-bye.
There is only one Quran, right? Every Quran in the world is the same. That's what you've been told. You have been told a lie!
There are approximately 26 of the Quran.
26 different Qurans!
There are 0 Dawa guys apparently left on the planet who are willing to defend Muhammad in a debate.
Everybody can go and read it. This is a book full of mistakes in Arabic, in the grammar, in the spelling, in the pronunciation.
Whoever wrote the Quran made an error because they didn't quite understand what was written in the 7th century in the Torah and the Injil.
Stay away from these translations. They are propaganda.
We know that stories about Muhammad were made up on an industrial scale.
What in the world is this Injil?